Bulls run amok on Dalal Street after US Federal Reserve signals a pause in rate hikes, at least in the short term. Sensex rallies over 600. Nifty soars past 10,800.
ICICI Bank sees profit taking after a strong third quarter. Most brokerages remain upbeat and hike price targets. Axis Bank ends as the top gainer on the Nifty for the second day in a row after strong third quarter showing.
Dewan Housing slides once again after reports suggest the government has launched a probe against the company based on allegations made against the promoters. Indiabulls housing tumbles despite good third quarter numbers.
Jubilant Foodworks stellar third quarter increases investor appetite for food stock, specialty restaurants. Westlife Development, Wenky's all end the day with decent gains.
Budget session of Parliament kicks off with the President's speech. Sources say a farm package based on existing schemes in Odisha and Madhya Pradesh could be on the cards. Well, those were the top 5 headlines from Dalal Street on a day when the Bulls were back and how. Welcome to Markets Today Talkback, the show where we will tell you all that happened in those 6 bullish hours, as it were, in 5 headlines. I'm Lata Venkatesh, with me my colleague Prashant Nair.
Hi. Almost get a feeling that we are reporting on a day of the budget rather than before the budget. I mean,
so much drama, yes.
Absolutely. The next 30 minutes we will tell you what happened. We'll try and tell you why it happened, and of course, we'll look ahead as well. We'll take your questions as always. Gaurang Shah and Mitesh Thakkar are going to be answering the questions that you send us our way. Gentlemen, thanks very much, both Mitesh and Gaurang, for being here. But let's spend 2 minutes to take a look at what really went on right from the word go at 9 this morning. Lata.
Well, the important point is that we started off with excellent global cues. It was a rally across Wall Street and Asia, primarily because the Fed said the word patient about 7 times. The Fed chairman said that 7 times in his speech, indicating that the rate hikes will not come anytime soon. But there were domestic reasons. And by the way, this is coming at a time when data was very strong. You know, the jobs data, which is released by AMP, was very strong in the US. The Chinese PMI data was strong. So good growth and easy money, what else do markets want? But there were local reasons and they were very important, and that is the ICICI Bank results. It merely reiterated what Axis Bank had shown, that the big pain is behind the corporate lending banks or the corporate facing banks. So you saw banks generally doing well. Of course, it had a lot to do with the fact that today is an expiry day. The January contract expires, and that also led to this kind of flurry of activity on Nifty Bank and on banking stocks. But HDFC Bank, more importantly, Kotak Bank and IndusInd Bank were also being yanked up to make it convenient for the expiry, futures expiry. IT stocks also charged ahead. Many of the results have been good. The latest in that list is Hexaware, but just about all companies indicated that they're just sitting on so many orders. The order pipeline is better. That may have helped. Yields fell. Yields fell across the board globally. It fell in the US, and you could see that impact in, they fell in the US largely because of the Fed cues. But the Indian yield, the 10-year paper, is now trading below 7.5. Some time back it was racing towards 7.6, even went to 7.65. So now it's back to 7.5, and the new 10-year also is down below 7.3. Besides this, there was short covering probably ahead of budget. People don't want to be prepared for some pleasant surprise that yanks up, and then suddenly you have to cover your shorts in a hurry. That could also have helped. All told, the market clearly is not going into the budget short. So any disappointment can be a little dangerous. It's quite clearly going in a bit long. Not all in, perhaps, but clearly shorts are covered. Absolutely.
I mean, you started with ICICI Bank, local factors. It was almost as if people looked at the ICICI Bank numbers and then decided to buy Axis Bank because, there is a look at the ICICI Bank stock and they bought other banking stocks as well. But with ICICI, there is this chatter in the market that maybe, there might be some legal action in the US. It's listed, the ADR is listed there. So, I mean, it kept people away from ICICI Bank, but no such thing for other financials. On your screen, Axis 5, Kotak 2 and 2.7, HDFC Bank 2.7%. Then there was Reliance, which participated right from the morning. Tata Motors, Bajaj from the auto pack were doing well. IT, Infosys, Tech Mahindra on your screen, and there were metals, JSW Steel, etc., which were up about 2.25% as well. Under pressure, so Yes Bank is back at 194. A recent high is 241. I mean, 20-25% moves in 10-15 days flat. It's quite something. Z was down. It's done well. It's recovered quite a bit in the last 3 sessions. And Bajaj Finserv was down about 2.5% as well. Broader gains on your screen. Jubilant Foodworks started slow, so there was plenty of time to get in if somebody did. 12.58 at close. Venky's 20 higher. There was Apex Frozen Foods 19 higher. Bank of India, HEG, Graphite. Those names, I mean, HEG and Graphite started the move yesterday. It's continued today. Hexaware was up. Avanti Feed, Indian Hotels. Again, just sticking with large volume names here. And the losses, again, DHFL, big cut and very huge volumes once again. So market remains unconvinced. Stocks at 136 rupees. Ajanta Pharma and Strides were some of the other losers. Lata.
Okay. Well, that's micros and the macros of the market. And now for some advice. Let's invite our guests. Mitesh, first, what's the next trade now at 10,830? A big event tomorrow. What's the morning trade? What's the February 1st morning trade?
So evening, Lata. I think 2 things. One, that we began the day with some kind of a mild negative bias. I was not sure we'll get past 10,750. Took a short round there. Getting past there, covered up the shorts, went long. So I think getting past 10,750, which is a very important area where a couple of moving averages are merging, should suggest that we should be heading towards the upper end of the range. While there is some intraday level at 10,880, but I think eventually 10,970, 980, which was the recent highs of the range, I think could be revisited. So I think I would keep a positive bias unless until now we again start breaking below 10,750. Tomorrow most likely will be a choppy day. So in that sense, I think in case you get mild declines during the day, I think closer to about 10,775, 785 would be a buying zone with a stop below 10,750. Early in the morning, let's see how it opens with the SGX clues and all. But I think any 30, 35 point kind of dip from here, I think should attract some buying for me.
Okay, so that is Mitesh on the top-down view on the index. Well, we move on to the second story. ICICI Bank saw profit taking in trade today after a strong showing in the third quarter. The stock recovered a bit to end marginally in the red. It was down quite a bit more at one point. The bank's asset quality, remember, improved in the third quarter along with slippages, which saw a sharp fall in the quarter for which they reported. Axis Bank, on the other hand, ended as the top nifty gainer for the second day in a row. And this is on the back of a healthy third quarter and guidance which the market liked very much. We've got a question. Karthik S from Gujarat has written in with a query on Axis. He's been holding 200 shares of Axis at a price of 568 rupees a piece. Stock today 700 plus. He's a long-term investor. He wants to know if he should hold or sell 200 shares of Axis at 568. Mitesh, I mean, how's it looking?
See, I would be slightly more aggressive over here. We've been saying that ICICI and Axis are entering into longer-term uptrends. And Axis has clearly started to make fresh highs. I would suggest if you can buy here also, I would be comfortable. Else just hold it out. I don't think the levels of 650 would be revisited in the short term. So we can keep a stop just below 640 or thereabouts. And I think I am looking at targets in excess of 825 to about 850 if you give it another 5 to 6 months from here.
Okay. Well, generally more about banks, Gaurang, what would your pecking order be?
Thank you, Lata, and good evening to all of you all. So, I think the good times are just begun for both Axis Bank and ICICI Bank. And I agree with Mitesh. I think we have targets close to about 850 on Axis Bank, 445, 450 on ICICI Bank. I would even say that given the correction on Yes Bank, again, the downside looks extremely protected. And if one has a longish time horizon, I think you can look at that, or else you can have Kotak Bank and IndusInd Bank as well. In the public sector banks, Lata, we are positive on SBI, Bank of Baroda and Indian Bank. I think that's going to be the order of preference. Of course, top will be HDFC Bank.
Okay, point taken. Some things don't change with fashions, don't they? The third headline from the street today, Dewan Housing continued to tumble in trade. This after reports suggested that government has launched a probe into allegations of financial mismanagement against the company. The stock ended 16% lower. Indiabulls Housing Finance too saw a tepid day in trade. Not very deep cuts, but one would have expected a little more green, considering that the company came with a good set of numbers for the third quarter. This company recorded the highest ever spreads due to robust securitization. Abhishek Kothari is here to detail the key highlights.
Indiabulls Housing Finance came out with its Q3 FY19 numbers today. Now, the liquidity crisis that we saw in Q3 FY19 has indeed impacted the loan growth momentum for the company. And they recorded one of the lowest loan growth in the last 3 years at 16.2% versus the average that we are used to seeing at 30% plus. So, on the positive side, the asset quality remains stable with gross NPA coming in at 0.79 versus 0.77% quarter on quarter. The spreads, however, jumped up to 3.46. And this is perhaps the highest spread recorded by them. This was on the back of higher securitization done by the management during the quarter. So the overall securitized portfolio or loans that are being sold to other financiers like banks, etc., was at 25,000 crore, which jumped up by 78.5% sequentially or quarter on quarter. So if you look at the numbers, the NII was up 30% on the back of higher yield that they got from securitized portfolio. However, the profit was down 15% on a YY basis. Back to you.
Okay, Abhishek, thanks very much. We've got a caller. Ramu from Bangalore is on the line with us with a question on DHFL. He's got 3,500 shares. His cost is 229 rupees. The stock's at about 135. Ramu, thanks for calling in. I mean, the price is sharply lower from where you bought. I mean, go on.
Too much lower, sir.
So, why didn't you sell so far?
I was waiting for some more profit actually. So, but it was completely reversed actually.
Yeah.
So you'd like to know what to do now?
Yeah, that's what, sir. Whether to sell or hold.
Gaurang, I mean, any hope? Is 135 price. His cost is almost 230 rupees.
So Prashant, when we have a company which is on the news for all the wrong reason, I think expecting some more profits is not a wise thing to do, to be very honest. I think you have to push the eject button ASAP, knowing the fact that since last year, September, October, some of these names have been on the wrong side of news flow, and we've seen the sharp correction coming through. Again, no specific coverage on this company, but if you do look at longest time horizon, then in the housing finance category, Canfin Homes, LIC Housing Finance or HDFC Limited, these would be the preferred bets. And there's some more business translates into the in situations like this.
Okay. So it's a hard thing to do, but Gaurang is saying that press the exit button. Mitesh, you heard the question. Any thoughts on this one?
So I would say similar kind of a thing. I think the stock has fallen a lot. Maybe it will give a bounce back, but that about I think the longer term trend, the medium term trend, all are damaged, and I think there is no sign of reversal happening as yet. So there has to be some base building, some accumulation happening. I think the stock is far away from that stage, which means that we could still see that continuation of lower lows pattern being tested, and a test of rupees 100 can also happen. So I would still suggest exit, and from 100 also we are not looking at a big reversal happening immediately. So I would also be comfortable exiting the stock. I think it's been a mistake, clearly admit it and get out of the stock.
Okay. Well, that's not a very easy thing to do, but there you are, Ramu. That's the advice from both our experts. Bite the bullet and move on and look for stocks that can give more money. We take a break on that note, but tomorrow is a big day. It's the budget, even if it's an interim one. Here's some market opinion, important opinion on what these veterans expect from the interim budget. Listen in, we are back in a jiffy.
I mean, we should not look at one particular announcement in isolation. The budget is quite important, no doubt, but the news flow right now is about a large farm loan package coming up. What we should watch out for is what is the impact of this on the overall fiscal balance of the economy. Is it something which is manageable? Is it something which they're going to stretch too much? And is it going beyond the means of the government? So if that's the case, we would be concerned. Having said that, I think fiscal deficit at 3.3, or I mean, it could expand maybe to 3.5 or so. It's still within a reasonable level. I don't think that by itself is a cause for panic.
There's a little bit too much policy risk with this fixation on the budget. Now, broadly speaking, for India, I think that a lot of people are looking for them to continue with opening up their markets as far as to competition, with trade policy, balancing the budget. We don't expect that they'll have a balanced budget, but at least to get the deficit under control. My guess is that with the interim budget, we'll probably see a little bit more deficit spending. And that could be slightly negative, at least as far as with way foreign investors view yields and investment opportunities in India. And it might actually be somewhat detrimental to the rupee outlook.
I think it's the election which is really the focus for foreign investors, and the budget, clearly is going to be in the run-up to that. And likely to be a boost because of that. But it's really the outcome of the election which is going to be of interest. Now, the assumption is going to be that there will be fiscal loosening, ahead of the election. That's normally the case. It would be surprising if it wasn't.
What a rally we had, and the Nifty, for whatever reason, anticipation of tomorrow's big event, past earnings from private banks being very strong, ending on the front foot in a big way. Gaurang Shah and Mitesh Thakkar are with us. They've been answering your questions. We got through 3 of the top 5 stories, so let's move on with the 4th one. Jubilant Foodworks, perfect delivery in the 3rd quarter, increased investor appetite for food stocks. We had names like Specialty Restaurants, Westlife Development, Wenky's all ending the day between 1% to 20% in the green. We've got questions coming in. Mr. K.N. Kumar has tweeted to us with a question on Specialty Restaurants. He's been holding 100 shares of the company. His cost is 138 rupees a share. And he wants to know essentially what to do with the stock. The specialty stock is at about 95 odd rupees or so at close today. Mitesh, what would you tell him?
See, I think this after listing, I think the stock has more or less maintained a downtrend, and now it's trying to do some base building around the 70 mark. We saw 70 being tested in January 17 and then back again in October 18. So I think the stock is now going through some kind of a bottoming formation. I think if we can add more on any declines to about 80-75 zone would be good. And I think anytime the stock is close to about 130 odd levels, try to take profits and exit the stock.
Okay, fair enough. Gaurang, would you any preference in terms of what appetite you have for pizza guys, Chinese restaurants, Wenky's chicken? I mean, what's the best investment idea? All those stocks did well today.
Yeah, thanks, Lata. And I think all of us have some taste buds for, quick service restaurant offerings that they have on the menu. So my sense is, and as Mitesh was referring to, since the time specialty restaurants got listed, it has been a stark underperformer. And when you know that you got stuck into an underperforming stock, I think you should exit as soon as possible. In this sector, the best pick and the stock that we cover is, of course, Jubilant Foodworks. And what I was extremely excited about that the company delivered earnings was the, contribution coming through from Dunkin' Donuts, which was otherwise sitting as a heavyweight on the balance sheet, and the run rate of number of stores that they opened up. And not to forget, the triple SG has been maintained. So I think the best investment idea would be Jubilant Foodworks.
Okay, fine. So they stick with the pizzas, our experts. Now we get you the last headline from Dalal Street today. Budget session of Parliament has kicked off with the President's speech. It is less than 24 hours before the Finance Minister Piyush Goyal will present what will be this government's last budget ahead of the Lok Sabha elections later this year. Sources to cnbc TV 18, the government may announce a farm package on the lines of those rolled out in the states of Odisha and Madhya Pradesh. Remember, the stress in the farm sector has been one of the key themes dominating the budget narrative this time around. Parikshit Luthra, who got this from his sources, filed this report earlier.
after the loss in recent assembly elections, the government has been studying several models, several schemes in order to support farmers in different parts of the country. We believe they have finally zeroed in on two state schemes. One is Odisha's Krushak Assistance for Livelihood and Income Augmentation. The government feels that this is something that can be implemented nationwide. They feel that it's better than the Raitu Bandhu scheme of Telangana because it includes tenant cultivators as well. As far as the Odisha scheme goes, it supports small and marginal farmers to the extent of 10,000 rupees per year. It's divided into 2 crop seasons. It also supports landless households and provides them 12,500 per year for raising poultry, goats, ducks and fishery as well. There is another scheme that has been studied, and that is a deficiency payment mechanism that has been followed by the Madhya Pradesh government. It's called the Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana. So in some form, the government may bring in a deficiency payment scheme where they would compensate people if there is a difference between the actual income and the potential income from certain notified crops. Let's wait and see what the budget fine print now is.
Okay, Pariksha, thank you very much. We don't have to wait very long for the actual announcement. Tomorrow by midday, everything would be clear. Gaurang, you'd have a couple of hours going into the budget tomorrow morning. Markets would be trading. Anything you'd look at going into the budget?
So, if one has to follow this theme, Prashant, I think stocks like Bata India, Bajaj Finance, M&M, because the amount of push that the government wants to do to the agri sector, I think tractor-related companies should do well, agri-equipment manufacturing companies should do well. And then, of course, you have likes of, cement, wherein we have a mid-cap company like Aramco Cement that looks extremely attractive. Even I believe that to enhance the, and cut short the transportation time, I think commercial vehicle companies like Ashok Leyland should be on your radar. So I think, and of course, fertilizer-related stocks, wherein you have companies like PI Industries, UPL, United Phosphorus Limited looks quite attractive at current levels. I think that's going to be the broad thing.
Okay. Well, Mitesh, you gave us your nifty strategy ahead of the budget. If you had to pick a stock or two, whether or not they're affected by the budget?
I have a very interesting pick in the sense that, it's related to the agri side, which is UPL. It's a fertilizer and chemical stock. And the good thing is that the stock has been doing a range of about 790 to about 735, has closed right below the range. I think 788 is the today's average closing. And also is the fact that the long-term charts are very good, and I think the breakout about 790, 795 will be breaking out into all-time highs for this stock. So I think if this breakout happens, I think about 790, 795 tomorrow, I think the stock can easily gain about 8-10% over the next 1 to 2 weeks, and therefore it will be my top pick, at least top stock to observe as we go into the budget.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much, and we are going to meet you now post-budget and discuss Q&A, which our viewers may have. Gaurang and Mitesh, thank you very much for joining us. Okay, before we wrap up, let's also leave you with a word from someone who has seen so many budgets and so many monetary policies, advised so many prime ministers and finance ministers. Sri Rangarajan, former governor of the Reserve Bank, on what his key expectations are from the budget.
My own feeling is that the budget, the interim budget, will announce some important measures, but leave it there without really incorporating it into the budget. In which case, the announced fiscal deficit for the coming year 2019-20 may not be that high.